Hello, and welcome to another edition of As the Blade Turns. My name is Dave Leese, and for those of you who are new here, please like and subscribe and leave a comment on this video. Let us know what you're thinking. Well, I had originally thought we would be discussing the Grand Prix assignments this weekend, but those have been delayed again by the ISU due to a scheduling issue in Sheffield, which is supposed to replace the Cup of China. There is a rumor that they may be released and announced as early as Tuesday. And if you notice, the Senior B assignments have also not been released as everything is currently in flux. When those are back, we will be back with this and that. You will have Jonathan and T and Shade and all that you want. And we will certainly have plenty to discuss with all that is going on in the figure skating world. But today, I wanted to discuss the response of Eteri Tutberidze and why she did it. Earlier this week, I published a video about words and actions. I pointed out how the words of Eteri, Diana Davis, and Gleb Smolkin, what they have told us about remaining on Team Russia and how they don't line up with their actions, being coached in America, coach shopping for weeks in the US, getting married to Gleb, a potential path to citizenship, stating an intention to participate in US domestic competitions when Russia has its own alternate version of the Grand Prix, and working with Alexei Kilyakov instead of someone more historically successful and politically connected, such as Alexander Julin. Well, Eteri took to Instagram to leave a comment on TSL's social media. It was a post from 2 weeks ago, but she left a direct hit, and this is true. It's unusual for her. Typically, Eteri has others speak for her in the press. Daniil Gleichenhaus, Zheleznyakov, and even her sister Marina Hoffman, who publicly spoke out when Yulia Lipnitskaya left Team Tutberidze. Marina posted that Yulia was never talented, and it was only the spins. Well, what did Eteri say? Eteri took to Instagram, and I saw it, and I opened my app, and I thought, is this real? I had to check it several times to make sure that it wasn't a fake account. Dave, you so full of shit. You have no conscience, no honor. You don't respect others because haven't achieved anything yourself. Your statements humiliate the people around you. Shame on you. Now, when a woman who was accused of rigging and doping the Olympics, of injuring dozens of athletes beyond all repair and destroying their future bodies, who gave Kamila Valieva banned heart medication, trimetazidine, says you don't respect others, and the failed ice dancer herself said that I didn't achieve anything. It was ironic, and yet certainly effective in the art of social media warfare, with dozens of comments going in both directions, creating chaos, which is an intended reaction in such situations. Now, why did she do it? If we look in Russia, Eteri was maintaining a place of complete dominance prior to the 2022 Olympic Games. She once fought with the famous Tatiana Tarasova, and Eteri is so powerful that even Tarasova began backing her at every turn. And she's really been able to maintain a place of relevance, even despite of her health issues. She's asked for comment in the press almost every day. This week, Tatiana Tarasova visited Team Tutberidze in Novogorsk, and Channel 1 showed the injured Sofia Akatieva handing Tatiana Tarasova flowers. And it was really giving off a message that both are healthy, because Sofia had to return home due to a knee injury, and Tarasova has been hospitalized several times throughout the year. And it also showed they are both proud supporters of Eteri. We also have to remember that Russia does not have a free press. We all remember the law passed by Vladimir Putin following the war, which really got the press in line with threats of jail time. And in the past, when the journalist and Olympic champion, Yelena Vaitsekhovskaya, spoke too openly about Eteri Tutberidze's pupils, she lost her job after decades in the business as one of the most esteemed journalists in Russian sports, and really in all of international sports. Now, with all that is happening politically, Tutberidze no longer has her grip in Russia. She distanced herself from Putin, and in that vacuum, Vgeny Plющenko has aligned himself with the war and received more support from the federation. His ice show has even received government funding, and if you notice, he has spoken more respectfully about in the Russian press and is no longer derided as he was maybe 6 or 8 months ago when it was all Team Tutberidze and he was more of, a ridiculous rival. Eteri also has no international competitions to dominate, and her students, who were once at the top of the international podium, are largely performing in ice shows, and they're no longer performing quad jumps. Sasha Trusova did perform a quad lutz this week in a show, but you have to remember that Sasha publicly stated she hated Eteri at the Olympics. Now, Eteri's communications game is impressive. She has tried to control and dominate the situation with Diana, and she has been somewhat successful by creating a stir in the fan community, but overall, she has been less than successful in the Russian press. When I published that Diana and Gleb were married in March, it was right after Russia was banned by the ISU that they got their marriage license in Vegas. And it was when Russia was banned from participating in Worlds. They got that license before the Worlds were even ever taking place. And they didn't make this public. It was intentionally private because they didn't want their actions to be public. Diana took to Instagram later that day after their monitoring session, and she assured that they would be members of Team Russia. But she put in a line at the bottom that might as well have been written by Eteri herself, and it mentioned that journalists need to have tact and respect their private lives. Now, that is true, but this is not a situation of Nathan Chen and who he's dating at Yale. It's not a case of private gossip. It's not even a case of Trusova and Mark Kondratyuk, which is, discussed in the Russian press all about. A marriage license is a public document, and their marriage in the U.S., the marriage of the daughter of one of the most powerful figures in Russian sports propaganda, lining up the option to represent the United States, has extreme international implications, especially as that mother is being investigated by the FBI. Now, they also chose to have a private monitoring session with a U.S. judge. Remember, Russia is banned from international competitions. And no matter how you slice it, if this judge is monitoring them as an American or as an ISU official, Russia is banned. There is no reason that the U.S. would help Russia. As we know, the two federations do not exactly have friendly relations. And they chose to be at a rink that was a little bit out of public view. They chose the Montclair State Ice Arena, which is close to where Sean lives, but they didn't do it in an ice rink like the Skating Club of Boston, the Colorado World Arena, or Great Park, where word would really get out. This was kind of off the grid. It just so happened to be the rink that I have skated at multiple times a week since 2019. And my coaches actually work with me on skating skills in the mornings during the elite ice dance sessions, as my coaches, Kristen Frazier and Igor Lukanin, are ice dance coaches. So imagine my surprise when they informed me that Diana was coming to the rink for a monitoring session, and imagine Diana and Gleb's reaction when they saw me in the lobby. It was one of those instances of fate that was too ridiculous to believe was true. Now, in Russia, Eteri has been largely able to control the media. Interviews with former skaters criticizing her methods have even been taken down. In one instance, a journalist told me Tutberidze was believed to have threatened to block the release of one of the skaters to another country, and the skater was then able to get their interview retracted. And it's rarely Tutberidze herself who does the talking. So why did she do it? There are plenty of criticisms of Eteri online. The YouTuber Fran has made large video essays about Eteri being the malignant cause of all that is wrong with figure skating. Thomas Bach, president of the IOC, spoke out against Eteri at the Olympics and her dehumanizing treatment of her athletes. But Eteri didn't choose to reply to those. She chose to reply in the wake of my latest video. Why? Well, the situation with Diana Davis and Gleb Smolkin changing federations has large political implications in Russia, which is going through a war. They're also going through being isolated from the rest of the world. And it's also something that not everyone in the Russian Figure Skating Federation may have been aware of. Now, Eteri has been a beneficiary of great support by the federation. It has certainly helped her build her power and her system. And her actions in the U.S. were largely in the shadows, and she was able to act as though she were merely a mother and not a coaching, strategic, and political mastermind trying to pull off a little bit of a coup. And if you think about it, Eteri doesn't have the power in the U.S. or the control that she had in Russia, which is why she took to Instagram and released a statement. Now, the case of Tutberidze replying has gotten great attention in the Russian media. And while those TASS and Match TV call for comment typically fall in line when they call everyone Besmianova, Tarasova, Laishev, Zeleznyakov, Leonova, I mean, it's a bingo card. In this situation, the case has been slightly more nuanced. Of course, a number of colleagues started to defend Eteri, and here are some of their comments. Tatiana Tarasova: I am not his mother, not his head, not his pen. I cannot tell you if he will attack Eteri again. Probably he will, if that's the way he is. She is absolutely right to respond to his attacks. He writes lies, so why can't she speak out about it? I don't know why he wrote it. She has great results and great relationships with her athletes. You know, I don't even want to talk about it. She works on such a line, what is possible and what is impossible. Our skaters are doing incredible things. I have a lot of respect for her. Now notice here, they didn't ask Tarasova about anything that I published directly. What actually was I lying about? Notice that she doesn't specify. Now, choreographer Alexei Zeleznyakov, master of the Boogie Woogie, also came out in support of Eteri. Yes, I completely agree with her, she answered even softly. Everyone is used to the fact that Eteri Georgievna never responds to attacks. But if Eteri answers, everyone will faint at once. Yes, in fact, let's call everything by its proper name. Stop being hypocritical. This gentleman certainly deserves such praise. I would have done this long ago if I were Tutberidze, especially if the family is touched. Now notice he's twisting this to be a family matter and not Eteri trying to switch citizenships. And then Ronald Laishev, whom Eteri actually got removed from his high position at Sambo 70, also spoke out. She got tired of all this. Having given the country 3 Olympic champions at 3 Olympics in a row, she has already proved everything to everyone, but they are trying to get something negative and something helping and creating conditions for further work for the benefit of our fans, spectators, and the good of our country. She's more of an artist, though. This, of course, is the hardest work, but at the same time, subtle creativity, a combination of sports and art. Therefore, this nervousness can be explained by a number of comments that we do not all know. Someone can blather something. A stir is created. Where is the daughter? Why did you go to America? And why is that? Such a bullying turns out. And Tutberidze is a non-public person, a hard worker and a workaholic. From morning to evening, she is on the ice with her skaters and works for the joy of us. We are all human. I have not experienced such on myself, although there was a lot of gossip. Although I am in charge of the sport and I oblige professionally. And Eteri is a great coach and who has to shoot back from attacks. I think such posts can be absolutely justified. Sometimes you really want to tell someone to go to hell. Now notice he talked about bullying, because if you think about what Eteri has done to some of her underage athletes on Instagram, such as Kostornaia, or in the case of Medvedeva, when she went to train with Brian Orser and went on television and acted like she was blindsided, and then had the Russian sports fans calling Medvedeva a traitor, you really have to wonder about such projection. Now, not all of the comments were pro-Eteri. Irina Rodnina, who is a member of the State Duma, actually responded when asked about the situation. She said, "Let Tutberidze think better about her honor and conscience." It's an interesting statement. Yelena Vaidzahovskaya also spoke out in this situation when they were asked. And she said something about this. Another round of internet squabbles between the American blogger and Eteri Tutberidze, and another idle commentary on which of them is more right. Although in reality, the problem lies on a completely different plane, when a whole series of facts come together, which I note are not disputed. Viewing Russian figure skaters, the monitoring by the U.S. Federation, a marriage between the athletes, which gives Gleb Smolkin the right to American citizenship, the journalist has quite the right to interpret these facts as it seems logical to him. If the actors do not consider it necessary to clarify the situation in a timely manner, then they must be prepared for other people's interpretations, whether they like it or not, exactly according to the popular expression of Tamara Moskvina. I'd rather tell about myself and my athletes, myself. Otherwise, others will tell about it. Therefore, such a sharp comment for the coach looks at least strange, Vaitsehovskaya wrote. Well, Dmitry Gubiernev also spoke out and said that it is really the fault of Eteri by being so secretive. He also spoke out when asked about this. And the commentator spoke out against Eteri's secretiveness from the media. Our coaches and leaders of the Federation often lack openness. We miss Eteri Georgievna's comments. She does not explain many things, does not work closely with journalists and public opinion. People interpret her words however they want for this reason. She needs to be more open, and closeness breeds speculation. Journalists have the right to conjecture. Conjecture can be both black and white, Gubiernev said. Now, former judge Alexander Vgenie also commented, and if you remember, this is the same judge who received widespread criticism when he criticized Papadakis and Cizeron with his homophobic remarks prior to the Olympic Games. He also spoke out against me, Oksana Grishuk, and Oksana Bayul prior to the Olympics as well on Facebook, which my coach Galina Zmievskaya also shared with me with no comment. Now, Vgenie said, the statement that the U.S. Federation has been monitoring looked very dubious from the beginning. It wasn't the Federation who monitored Diana and Gleb, but the new chairman of the ISU Technical Committee for ice dance, Sean Redstadt. They wanted him to check their program for compliance with the new rules that had just been written by this particular person. This is a very professional move, most likely organized by Eteri while she was in the U.S. This man has just been elected as the new chairman of the Technical Committee. He has just finished drafting the new rules. Of course, meeting in the USA is a great luck for the skaters. And what Alexander said is all true. And there's a nuance he's leaving out, which is that the ISU banned Russia. So an ISU official is therefore not supposed to but be monitoring a Russian dance team. Think about how that would look to the newly elected leader. But Sean Redstadt, as a member of the ISU, is also a U.S. judge. As remember, anyone who's in the ISU also represents their individual federation. So he is therefore able to still maintain a position of prominence within U.S. ice dance. So think about it. Why would a U.S. and ISU official who is trying to craft the rules of ice dance be helping out a rival nation, which is banned from international competitions, when these actual skaters have been doing everything to line up the potential to represent the U.S. in domestic and eventually international competitions? I wanted to leave you with one more article just to give you a little bit of context. Deputy Roman Terushkov proposed to equate the change of sports citizenship with treason. Terushkov published a letter from the Ministry of Sports of Russia from which it follows that in the period from 2012 to 2022, 93 Russian athletes changed their sports citizenship. 67 athletes in 17 Summer Olympic sports, 21 in 3 winter sports, and 4 in 4 non-Olympic sports, including a Paralympian. The average age of athletes who changed sports citizenship is 29.8 years. In the submitted letter from the Ministry of Sports of the Russian Federation, one can find the cost of maintaining individualists is about 200 million rubles. And these are expenses only for the period when the athletes became members of the national team, when they received both salary and prize money. In this amount, we do not see medicine, equipment, the cost of coaching staff, instructors, psychologists, and the cost of using sports facilities, and so on. And most importantly, this amount does not include the figures spent on training athletes before enrolling in the Russian national team, and these figures are impressive. It turns out that the current legislation puts the interest of the individual above the interests of society and the state. The president signed a law according to which going over to the side of the enemy in the conditions of hostilities will be considered treason. I believe that the change of sports citizenship for athletes of the national team should also be equated with an act of high treason, wrote a member of the Committee on Physical Culture and Sports of the State Duma of the Russian Federation. Well, this situation is certainly ongoing. Will Diana and Gleb actually make it to the U.S. domestic competitions? Will they go to the Russian test skates? What will happen? Will Tutberidze's plan of playing both sides work out? We'll certainly be following it. Thank you.